In front of the clients, my boss interrupted my pitch, shouting, "Ignore her. She's just practicing." I sat in silence as he ruined my presentation, then laughed. "See? Needs a lot more training." I let him finish, let him fail, and when the clients asked follow-up questions only I could answer, I politely redirected them and signed them to a contract without ever mentioning his name.
I'm Rachel.
I'm 38 now, living in Cincinnati, Ohio. At the time, I was working at a mid-sized business tech company doing B2B sales. Not glamorous. A lot of long hours, meetings that went nowhere, and managers who thought motivational quotes were the same as leadership. Still, I liked what I did. I was good at it. I learned early on that knowing your client better than they knew themselves was the key to winning deals. I read their company reports, followed their trends, even figured out what frustrated their teams internally. I took pride in it. I didn't need to talk over people or take up space. I just got results. Things were fine until corporate brought in a new regional manager, Kyle. Kyle was probably mid-30s, fake tan, hair that never moved, always wore loafers without socks. He came in with this energy like we were all lucky to have him there. Said things like, "You're either building or bleeding," and "We're not here to sell. We're here to shock the market." Whatever that meant. Right away, Kyle and I didn't click. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. He didn't like that. He wanted to be the guy leading every room, even the ones he didn't understand. He started pushing me to speak up more or work on confidence. Funny thing was, my numbers were stronger than anyone else's, but that didn't seem to matter to him. Then came the Ferguson pitch. Ferguson Holdings was a big logistics company. Not flashy but steady. They were having issues with their old vendor and were open to changing. We'd been trying to get in with them for a year. Finally got the meeting. I was the one who made it happen. I researched their pain points, built the presentation, lined up integration plans, and ran models for the ROI. I even figured out who on their team had influence but didn't have a title that showed it. Tessa, the senior ops manager. She wasn't in charge, but she made decisions. I knew that. The day before the meeting, Kyle told me I'd be leading the pitch. I'd walk them through the numbers, the solution, and the rollout plan. He'd do the intro and wrap it up. That was the agreement. I practiced for days. I was ready. Meeting day came. Their office was sleek. Glass walls, open space, expensive lighting. The kind of place where everyone walks fast and nobody smiles. Kyle schmoozed at first. He made small talk, dropped some names, laughed a lot. Then he turned to me with this big fake smile and said, "Rachel's got the details. Take it away." I stood up. I was maybe 1 minute in, just warming up, laying the groundwork, when he cut me off. Waved his hand, actually. Ignore her," he said, smirking. "She's just practicing. First time at the table." Then he laughed. Loud. Like it was funny. I felt my stomach drop. I tried to keep my face still. He walked right over, took the clicker out of my hand, and stood in front of the screen like he'd built the whole damn thing himself. He started talking. Fast. Sloppy. He quoted the wrong numbers. Mixed up their warehouse locations. Said they'd been in talks with us for months. We hadn't. He kept saying synergy like it was a magic word. I sat there silent. Tessa glanced at me a few times. I didn't move. Then Kyle said it again. "She's learning. We're building her up. Needs more polish." More laughter. Just from him. He asked if they had questions. They did. But they weren't simple ones. They were deep. Stuff only someone who had done the real work would know how to answer. Kyle froze. I could see him trying to bullshit his way through it. Stumbling through acronyms he didn't understand. Then he turned to me. "Rachel, want to take these?" I stood up. I didn't look at him. I looked straight at Tessa and her team. And I answered every question clearly.
No file.
Just facts. I handed out the print deck, the one I'd made, and walked them through the whole thing again. Clean. Precise. I watched the mood shift in the room. They started nodding, writing things down, engaging with me. Tessa asked something very specific about back-end integration with their legacy system. Kyle had no clue what she meant. I knew the answer cold. After I explained it, Tessa paused. Then she said, "Can we speak with Rachel privately?" Kyle laughed again. We're a team. Tessa didn't blink. We'd like to speak with Rachel. Alone. He looked at me confused, then back at them, and left. Door shut behind him. Tessa turned to me. Was that your pitch? Yes. Good, she said. Because we're interested. But we want to work with you, not him. Can you make that happen? I didn't hesitate. Yes. We talked for another 20 minutes. She had her assistant email me the draft contract before I even got back to the office. They signed 2 days later. I processed the deal under my name. I didn't mention Kyle once. Back at the office, he found out. Didn't even thank me. Instead, that Friday, he held a team meeting. Brought donuts. Tried to act like the big hero. Let's talk about the Ferguson win, he said, pacing with a whiteboard marker. That's what happens when leadership and vision come together. Then he pointed at me. And Rachel did a great job supporting the plan. Supporting. I didn't say a word. Just smiled. But in the weeks after that, I kept working. Quietly. I reached out to 2 other clients we've been chasing. Ones I had relationships with. Ones Kyle had never touched. I closed both deals on my own. Then I went to our VP, Jackie. She was tough, sharp, and hated nonsense. I gave her the full story. Not drama. Just what happened, what I delivered, and what Kyle did. She listened. Didn't say much. A few days later, Kyle was pulled from all client-facing work. Internal focus, they called it. 3 months after that, he was reassigned to a small side project out in Akron. No team.
No clients. No spotlight.
He didn't last long. I got promoted to lead the regional team. He never said goodbye. I never said anything either. But every time I walk past the glass meeting rooms now, I think back to that day. To how loud his laugh was. And how quiet it got when he left the room. For a while things felt solid. Calm. After Kyle got moved, the office got quieter. People started looking at me different, not in a bad way. Just with respect. My team stopped tiptoeing around me. I got looped into higher-level meetings. Clients trusted me fast. We were growing. And I was finally getting credit. But nothing in corporate life stays calm for long. 3 months into my new role, I found out Kyle wasn't really gone. He'd been reassigned. Yes, but not just to Akron. Apparently, he'd been moved into something called strategic operations. It sounded like a punishment, but it wasn't. I found out when a calendar invite popped up. Q2 growth planning with StratOps plus sales leadership. I opened it. He was on the call. I stared at his name on the list. Kyle R. StratOps, a project lead. I almost canceled. Almost. But I didn't. I joined the Zoom call 5 minutes early like I always do. There were 8 people in the meeting. He was the last to show up. When his video came on, he looked different. Not in a good way. He'd lost some weight, had this fake smile glued to his face. Still wearing the same shirts, though, the loud prints, too tight collar. He acted like nothing had ever happened. Rachel, he said, as if we were old friends. Great to see you. Wow, killing it out there, huh? I smiled. I said nothing back. Just nodded. The purpose of the meeting was vague. Something about syncing sales strategies with regional logistics. Kyle barely spoke at first. Just nodded and jotted things down like he was collecting dirt. Then near the end he cleared his throat. There's something I want to propose, he said. A new framework for handling big accounts. Kind of a mentorship pipeline. Pairing high-potential junior reps with experienced team leads, like Rachel, for example, so we can scale wins like Ferguson. He said my name like it was his idea. Then he smiled at me, like we were on the same side. I spoke up. I'm not interested in mentoring under his plan, I said. I don't need help scaling anything. My team's doing just fine. We don't need outside interference. A long pause followed. Jackie, our VP, cleared her throat. Let's table that and follow up later. That was the first shot. The next came 2 weeks later. One of my deals, a 6-month negotiation I'd been building, was suddenly flagged by legal. Something about contract structure. It didn't make sense. I asked around. One of the in-house attorneys let something slip. Kyle raised a concern about language in the clause regarding fulfillment penalties. Said he was just trying to protect the company. He was trying to block my deals. Quietly. Not openly. Not with his name on anything. Just sending emails. Raising questions. Creating problems. I tried to ignore it. Then another one hit. A client I'd been trying to renew, a simple renewal, no changes, suddenly said they'd been contacted by another rep. From our own team. They were confused. I thought you were still our contact, the client said. But Kyle said we'd be working through him now? That was it. He was trying to poach my accounts. I went straight to Jackie. She looked tired. I know, she said before I could even finish. You're not the first to tell me. I paused. Then why is he still here? She sighed. Because he's tied to someone up top. Not performance. Just politics.
Is er daher?
She held my gaze. He's not your manager anymore, she said. But be careful. He's not done. She wasn't wrong. The next week, one of my junior reps, Dina Sharp Girl, worked hard, came into my office. Looked nervous. Kyle called me, she said. Said he wants me to help him on a project. Off the record. Said I shouldn't mention it to you. My stomach twisted. I asked her to forward me the email. It was slick. Vague language. Made it sound like an opportunity. But he was clearly trying to use her to get insight into my team's deals. I had to think. Fast. I needed proof. Not just for Jackie. For whoever was protecting him. I had to show them what he was doing. What kind of person he really was. I needed to make a move. And I knew exactly how I was going to do it. I wasn't going to fight him head on. I was going to let him walk right into a trap. After Dina showed me that email, I started building a plan. Quiet. Clean. No fire, just facts. I didn't warn Kyle. I didn't go to HR. Not yet. I let him keep digging his own hole. I called a meeting with my team, just the sales staff under me. Told them we'd be piloting a new internal system for tracking outreach and feedback. Something to streamline our reporting. But what it really was a filter. We logged everything, client calls, emails, who was looped in, which documents were shared. I trained them to track every little thing. It looked like I was just tightening operations, which wasn't out of character. But it was more than that. It was a net. And it didn't take long to catch something. 3 weeks later, one of my reps, Josh, sent me a flagged message. A client we'd never spoken to before suddenly had documents that only we had access to. Internal models. Not the versions we send out. Early drafts. They were in Kyle's hands now. That was strike one. Strike two came days later. I got CC'd on an email from a procurement lead at Langford Distribution. Another client I'd been grooming. She'd asked for a final copy of our onboarding guide. When I opened the thread, I saw a name in the CC list that didn't belong there. It was Kyle's new junior project analyst. A guy I'd never heard of. No background in sales. But he had access to files meant for my team only. He was building his own shadow team. I started digging. I used our system to pull access logs. Document tracking. Internal version histories. He was quietly cloning my client playbooks. My scripts. My pricing tactics. He was feeding them to his side project under the name Regional Strategy Expansion. Acting like he was the one designing it all. He wasn't stealing clients. He was trying to steal my method. Strike three came when one of the clients he poached, a small account I thought wasn't worth chasing, came back to us. Angry. Why did your guy promise free upgrades for 12 months? The client asked me on the phone. I didn't know what he was talking about. Turned out Kyle had made a side offer. No approval. No legal sign-off. He used old versions of our contracts, altered them, and promised more than we'd ever agreed to. He signed with his own name. Now the client was threatening to walk unless we honored it. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just office politics anymore. He was breaking rules. Maybe even laws. I called Jackie. She didn't pick up. I sent her an email. Marked it confidential. Attached everything: emails, logs, proof of document access, copies of the edited contracts. It was a short message. This isn't about personality clashes. He's jeopardizing real accounts. Please escalate. I didn't get a reply for a day. Then late the next evening I got a Teams message from Jackie. We need to meet. Privately. 8 a.m. tomorrow. Conference room C. I barely slept. The next morning I walked in early. She was already there. She didn't say anything at first. Just slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed copies of everything I'd sent her. With one addition, an email from Kyle to someone in corporate. It was full of lies. He said I'd been undermining strategy, that I was hoarding data, that my team was refusing to collaborate. He made it sound like I was the problem, and he was the one trying to fix things. I looked up at Jackie. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because you need to see how far he's willing to go, she said. He's not just trying to take your work. He's trying to replace you. My chest tightened. He's trying to set you up, she said. We think he's going to push for an audit of your team next quarter. Maybe even try to claim your blocking company IP. I sat there frozen. But she wasn't finished. That's why we're not going to wait. You're going to keep doing what you're doing. Keep things quiet. But starting next week, we're pulling his access. Ich zerrte her. And then, she leaned forward. We're going to let him think he won. Then she smiled. Cold. Sharp. But when it hits, it'll hit hard. Jackie's words stuck with me. Let him think he won. It felt risky. But she was right. If Kyle thought he was ahead, he'd get sloppy. And we'd have him fully finally. So I played along. I acted like nothing had changed. I kept running my team like always. Smiling in meetings. Nodding on calls. I even complimented one of Kyle's new initiatives in a group chat. It was garbage, but I didn't care. Let him eat it up. Meanwhile, Jackie had her team working behind the scenes. First thing she did, lock Kyle out of our real systems. She didn't tell him. She just copied his access, redirected him to a dummy version. Same dashboard, same login, but the data was 2 weeks old. Enough to confuse him, not alarm him. He still thought he was ahead. Then we started tracking his fake contracts. Every one he sent out we flagged. My team quietly followed up with the clients after, apologizing for miscommunication, and offering real, clean versions. We re-earned their trust before he even knew there was a problem. He had no idea he was bleeding out. 2 months in, we hit the final phase. Jackie scheduled a sales strategy review with the executive committee. Big room. Glass walls. Suits everywhere. Even the CFO was in there. She told Kyle to present. Told him it was his shot to pitch the next era of regional growth. He took the bait. He strutted into that boardroom like a movie villain. Slides. Graphs. Buzzwords. He presented my work like it was his masterpiece. Even used the same phrases I'd written in the Ferguson playbook, word for word. And then, during Q&A, he made his mistake. The CFO asked a question about a specific client. Kyle gave an answer, but the client wasn't real. Jackie had made them up. A dummy account. Fake emails, fake history, fake quote requests. All planted in Kyle's fake dashboard. He bit. Their pain points are clear, he said. They need integration at scale. That's when Jackie stood up. Interesting, she said. Come. Cold. Because that client doesn't exist. The room went still. Kyle blinked. Laughed. What do you mean? Jackie didn't laugh back. We created that account, Kyle, as part of an internal review. Then she turned to the execs. He's been operating in a shadow system, sending unauthorized contracts, misusing internal documents, redirecting client communication, undermining leadership. She nodded to IT. The screen behind him switched, emails, logs, tracking data, calendar invites. All of it. Black and white. Every lie. Every move. Every theft. I didn't say a word. I just watched him stand there, his mouth open, his face pale. Effective immediately, Jackie said. Kyle's employment is terminated. Legal will follow up regarding breach of contract and misuse of company property. He didn't speak. He just walked out. Quiet. Fast. Like a ghost trying not to be seen. But that wasn't the end. We thought he'd disappear. Instead, 2 weeks later, an email went out to every department. Subject line. Rachel under investigation, client complaint. He had filed a report with HR after getting fired. Said I bullied junior staff. Said I took credit for other people's work. Claimed I'd made threats. It was desperate, but still HR had to look into it. I sat through interviews, gave over all my emails, messages, call logs. It dragged on for weeks. I didn't sleep. My stomach was in knots every day. Even though I knew it was lies, it still shook me. I started doubting myself. But then Dina stepped in. She told HR everything. So did Josh. And 2 others. They showed the proof. Spoke up without being asked. Said Kyle tried to recruit them. Offered promotions if they helped him. The investigation ended in a day. HR cleared me fully. Apologized. And then, something happened I didn't expect. Jackie pulled me aside. I'm leaving, she said. Took an offer with another firm. Can't say no to the money. I felt something tighten in my chest. You should apply for my job, she said. I already told them you're ready. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent so long trying to stay just out of the spotlight. But now I'd earned it. I applied. 2 weeks later I got the offer. Regional VP. More money. More power. My name on everything. The first thing I did. I sent out a department-wide memo. Short. Clear. Effective immediately. All client-facing projects must run through verified platforms.
No exceptions. No shortcuts.
If you need a reminder why, just ask. I never heard from Kyle again. Last I heard, he was trying to start a podcast about corporate resilience. It had 5 followers and no sponsors. As for me, I still don't talk much. But when I speak now, people listen. Because I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I let him laugh. Let him sabotage. Let him sink. And then I buried him with the truth. Quiet. Sharp. Final. And that's the real revenge. Not just taking someone down, but rising without ever using their name again.